Welcome back to EdYouWell. As we know, the start of the calendar year, January and February, can really stretch out ahead of us. And it's easy to fall into the blah zone, as we say. The road feels long and you don't want to just wish your weeks away. In this episode of EdYouWell, we're diving into practical ways to recognize, understand, and move through the blahs so you can find energy, creativity, and joy again. Welcome to the EdYouWell podcast, a show created for, by, and with teachers. I'm Alex.
And I'm Chelsea. Our goal is to share insights and connect with fellow teachers on how to thrive both personally and professionally.
Join us as we dive deep into the well of information filled with relatable tips, practical discussions, and ideas that go way beyond the classroom walls. Let's be well
and do well together.
I don't know about you, Chels, but I am in blah zone right now.
Yes, we are in the blah zone right now. It's cold outside, the skies are cloudy, and we're staring down that long stretch before spring break and, dare I say, summer. But we don't want to wish our weeks away. We know this time of year comes. We've been through this annual teaching cycle, so today we want to talk about how to break out of that blah zone and find ways to bring energy and enjoyment back into our days. The first thing we need to do is actually name the blahs. So what do they feel like for you, Alex?
For me, they feel like I wake up in the morning and I just think, oh, it is Groundhog Day. And every day feels and looks the same. And a routine that at one point kept me in line and energized has become a ball and chain that I am dragging around. And unfortunately, by the time I get to school and by the time I start teaching, I feel like I'm not giving the same level of energy that I would like to give. And it becomes this perpetual thing that occurs where if I can't show up and bring a certain amount of energy, my students almost fall into line with me and we feed this back and forth of blah. And so I just have to acknowledge my impact on the class and their impact on me. And so I have a really hard time when I hit the blahs. How about you? What does it look like for you?
Yeah, I'm with you. I find that for me, even though we've had a break, we've had like a winter break, we come back, we've got that newness at the beginning. Everybody knows what they're doing. So it's kind of nice to dive back into it. But then after a few weeks, I just start to feel like I'm constantly on all the time. So all the planning, all the thinking, all the showing up constantly, that's what kind of gives me the blahs. So I always have to be strategic about what I'm putting in place to move me forward.
I've said in the past how January is one of my favorite teaching times, and that remains true. And I find that in that February, March zone and with the long stretch ahead, I'm saying the same one-liners to my students over and over and over like a broken record. And it's this uncomfortable reminder that I haven't achieved, maybe what I want to have achieved with my students. And so there's a frustrating thing for me that comes with the blahs. I mean, the best thing that's happening right now, Chelsea, is we're naming the blahs.
Yes, exactly. So it all starts with asking yourself, why? Why am I feeling this way? Because we all have different reasons for feeling the blahs. So I found that pinpointing it and then sort of honing in on it is what's really going to help. So let's talk about what we do in the classroom to help us with that. What's your first strategy that you do when you're feeling the blahs in the classroom?
Well, I'm thinking, I mean, the blahs pop up for me throughout the year, not just in February.
Yeah.
However, I'm going to use February as my North Star right now, as a time where, that's where we are. So what I really like to do is I like to shift the classroom. Okay. So throughout the course of a day, you're doing student-led, teacher-led, like you're breaking it up. But I like to really shift towards student-directed learning. And you and I have done this together.
Yeah.
One of the things we've done is project-based learning and book clubs as a way to shift it, again, towards student-led and student-directed and students carrying more of the responsibility. And of course, like I said earlier, at this point, they know a lot of the routines. And you're almost saying, I'm going to release. You do the gradual release, and now you're releasing. And in doing so, the energy and the leadership goes towards them, but you're freeing up some of your energy And I think you can go and support students in deeper learning. You could go have one-on-one conversations. That is something that really works. And I really enjoy doing book clubs and teaching literacy. And so because I'm, delving into that area, I can really shift towards, a really warm love of the topic. And so that helps me, like choosing something that I'm extra interested in.
Yeah, and that can vary through all the subjects, right? But project-based learning can be very useful here because you are letting go a little bit. You're giving that freedom and the spotlight is off of you. So it is a nice time to do it because everyone sort of knows how to do it now. It does come with work, but a different kind of work than it always being you. And bringing community partners in to help with that can be very beneficial because here's a time where the kids maybe need a change too. Like, sure, you're awesome, but you know what? It's nice for them to see someone else in the classroom to get some different information, some different perspectives, different teaching styles. I know I've done a few projects with other teachers, with you, Alex, that have just brought a new life to maybe a project that you've always done. Also, having a teacher candidate, if you can. I've had a lot of good experiences here where you have someone coming into a classroom where you're sort of filling the blahs and they're bringing these fresh perspectives, new ideas, new forms of engagement with the students. So you're learning, the students are learning, the teacher candidate is learning. So that can also be really fun to do during these blah times.
Isn't it fascinating how, you may not want to try something different, or you might think, oh, this will never work. And then you have a guest in your room, a teacher candidate specifically, because they're, in the process of learning and they apply it and they're very successful. And it just opens up a world of, oh, this is possible. So, I mean, it is a great reinvigoration for a classroom.
Yeah, it is. And let's just swing back to what you said about enjoying what you're teaching. Sometimes we want to save, our fun units until later on in the year or this specific time. But if you're really feeling blah, I would recommend bringing in that fun unit that you really like, bringing in your passion. What can you share with the kids that's also going to get you excited because you can make your teaching enjoyable?
Have you ever been in a conversation with someone and it's a regular conversation and then you bring up something that they're super interested in talking about and their whole demeanor completely changes and they become excited and it's like a whole new version of the person?
Yeah.
I think about it in that context. Like you can do that for your students by what you talk about and what you're willing to share, and you can get that out of them by activating their passion. So in the blah times, finding passion in teaching and in learning, it's a skill that you have to be able to realize that the blahs are happening, and then what is the remedy to that. So that those are some remedies in the classroom. But of course, when I'm trying to drag myself out of bed every single day, that has more to do with me personally, physically getting out of the blahs. And that's kind of that mind body piece. So what do you do for that? I bet you I know.
Right. So we're getting into our second topic, which is mind and body. Now, you know that the number one thing that I do whenever I'm feeling the blahs at any time in my life is I move my body. It can be a walk. It can be some form of exercise. I don't care what it is. I am moving my body because that's what helps me boost my mood and my mind and my creativity the most. So, super important to pay attention to how you're feeling because we know that sometimes this fatigue can be predictable. I like to actually journal when I'm feeling really tired throughout the year so I can kind of look back to know how I might feel during the upcoming year or what I did last year to help me get through these blahs. Now, of course, there's always some form of exercise scheduled in there on my calendar to get me that energy that I need. So yes, movement in my books is number one. What about you, Alex?
Well, yes, I will admit, movement also is something that completely works for me. And I don't mean to put up like a barrier here, but it's also just getting the motivation becomes challenging during the blahs.
Yes.
But that once I do it, like that fresh air outside is reinvigorating. And I just think about how I feel when I come home from brisk weather and a brisk walk. And of course, there's no bad weather. There's just bad clothing. And that's, something that Norwegians say. And I have come to learn that that is completely true. And I'm willing to spend money on good quality clothes to get outside. But that fresh air, what a difference it makes. And for me, that's what it is. It's a powerful reset for me to get outside and walk. And I also tend to practice more gratitude when I'm feeling blah, to kind of reframe the situation instead of just being like, meh, everything is gray. It's like, no, everything is not gray. Here are some things that, are very colorful in your life. And that can just bring me to a better place. That's something that works for me.
I think gratitude is very important when it comes to these times when you're feeling blah, almost like embracing the time that you're in. So yes, you're in sort of this like hibernation phase, depending on where you live. Like we have long, cold winters, but I have learned to embrace that, and to embrace the hygge, as we talked about before. What can I find that's cozy? What can I bring into my space that is going to give me that nice, warm, cozy feeling? And what can I bring into my space to make me really appreciate this time of year or this time in my life? And, props to you for getting out there in the freezing cold and going for your walk, because I got to tell you, Alex, I am not quite there yet. Like, I love the saying, there's no bad weather, there's only bad clothing, but you'll just find me down the basement on my treadmill most of those days. Sometimes I get out there, but
yeah, but longtime listeners know that you're doing 20,000 jumping jacks
oh yeah,
too.
that's right.
So, I mean,
20.
there we go. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I guess big picture wise, when you're really having the blahs, it's really hard to get motivated to do the things that you need to do to get yourself out of the blahs. But it's easier for me to get motivated to do a hygge soiree than it is for me to sometimes get out and move and do some of the other things.
Well, here's something that I've learned. I think I read this in a book called How to Talk to Yourself. When you're feeling really blah and you're like, I have no energy, you instantly change that to, I have all the energy in the world. And you keep telling yourself that. And then you sort of trick yourself into thinking that you actually have some energy. And you know what? You do have it. It is there. And so you kind of have to pull it out of there with your mind. It's all about the mind. So with that fancy tip from me, let's get into what are we doing with our personal time? We talked about the classroom. We talked about the body and mind. But what are we doing with that time when we're not at work and we're still feeling the blahs?
Well, I'm thinking that when I've created a beautiful space for myself to have a hygge moment, when I press play on the TV, Chels, I am watching Scandinavian dark noir television in the winter.
Ooh.
It's what I enjoy watching. But when it coincides with some blahs, it it needs to be, I need to be mindful about it, and I need to do, okay, wait, I need a comedy right now. And my first go-to is never comedy. If you look at my like streaming and what they're recommending, never comedy. I mean, comedy's at the very bottom. It's not my go-to. However, when I seek joy, comedy, laughter, lighthearted, uh, I'm smiling thinking about it. It completely shifts something inside of me, like when I get the giggles and the laughs going. So, I mean, I think that finding a really good laugh is important. And whether you do that with the TV or a funny podcast, or you go out with friends and just lighten the mood and laugh, it makes you feel alive. And so I think that finding some laughs when you're feeling the blahs is key. I really do.
Couldn't agree more. And I know we're not talking about work right now, but I do need to say that finding those laughs at work can also help with the blahs there. But that's all year long. Connecting with people.
Yes, connecting with people, because you know what connecting with people does? It makes you realize that you're not the only person experiencing the blahs. And so you get tips and ideas. You're listening to this podcast, you're getting some ideas. Well, talk to your friends and get some ideas from them. And they'll share some stories around their blahs too. And you will not feel so alone in your blahs, because if you're a teacher and you go through the 4 seasons at school, you're bound to hit a blah or two. And that's just normal. So that to me is a really important piece of this, is you're not alone. I will speak for myself right now. I've been teaching for many, many moons, and there is not a year that goes by that I don't experience the blahs. My only hope is that it's short and not too long. But I've had years where the blahs have remained and lingered way longer. Of course, if you've got really big blahs and they're lasting a long time, our tips might not be what you need. You might need to go and talk to someone, because blahs can be serious if they last for too long.
That's right. We are not doctors.
No, we are not. But you know what we are?
What?
We're teachers.
That's right.
Teachers.
We're teachers who have experienced the blahs, and I feel pretty confident about knowing how to get through them now.
Yeah.
We know how to keep our wells full.
Yeah, but how many years did we deplete those wells to get to this point? Many. Just saying.
I guess you're right. Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
Okay. Well, we're going to ramp up this energy and get into the takeaways.
All right. 1. Awareness breaks the cycle. Naming the blahs helps you recognize why and when they show up.
2. Shift your energy, not just your effort. Use student-led lessons, joyful teaching, fresh air, and mindset shifts to lighten the load.
And 3. Prioritize joy outside of teaching. Listen to our energy, Chelsea. This isn't blah.
Contagious.
Fun, laughter. It's contagious. Fun, laughter, and personal time to refill your well is key.
The sun is coming.
Here comes the sun. Thanks for listening to the EdYouWell podcast. If you enjoyed today's episode, please share it with a friend, subscribe, and leave a positive review. It helps others to find us.
Follow us on Instagram and Pinterest to help spread the word. For more inspiration, tips, and book recommendations, just head to the show notes and join the EdYouWell newsletter today. Until next time, be well
and do well.